It's the SKOR North Twin Show.
All right, SKOR North Extra Innings live from Target Field. Declan Goff here. AJ Fredrickson with a very poignant helmet on with a bunch of autographs. You know, people think he's a Cubs fan. That's not true. He's also a closet Twins fan.
Hey, nothing wrong with a little intra-league fandom. That's all right. For my lifetime, they played each other once in every blue moon. Now they play each other every year, but it's every other year, depending on where they come to town. It doesn't matter. The Twins, these Twins, they've been red hot. It's hard to deny it. In Dex, we're on. Tonight was a little bit of dampener on the flame, but I think the campfire is going to roar again here sometime later this week.
Yeah, honestly, Age, here's what my main takeaway here is you knew when Carlos Rodon was on the mound, you're going to get a lefty, one of the better ones in Major League Baseball, and that meant you were obviously then going to be without the Twins, that is, some of your best left-handed hitters, so you kind of have an odd lineup. And I thought going into this series, this one was probably going to be the toughest to win just because, again, Rodon's really good. You don't have your allotment of left-handed hitters to start the game. And, you know, there's some other things that we can get into that I can explain as some shaky defense and some other reasons why they lost this game. I'm not making excuses. We are not really an excuse-making podcast, but I'm just going to say I'll make the excuse. I thought tonight was going to be the one that was going to be the hardest to win just given the matchup. Twins do fall to the New York Yankees. I didn't get like the awkward vibe that I think we have kind of moved on, shockingly. I'm knocking on wood, and let's see how the rest of the two games play out. And maybe this is a topic for the other two games of this series. I don't get the nervous Yankee vibes. I just thought tonight against a really good lefty and you had some defensive miscues that this one was probably just going to be the toughest one to win.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, like, that kind of nervousness, and I feel like in the past, like, yeah, the Yankees, it's the Yankees. They come to town and, like, oh, you know, lock your doors, shut the blinds, you know, the Yankees are in town. I don't know about you. The past few years have kind of like, they're still the Yankees, don't get me wrong, but I don't really fear them as much. And maybe that's just me being a dumb baseball guy where it's just like, they don't seem like this juggernaut of a team, and they're still very good. They're still very good. They have a lot of superstars on their team, whether it's in the batting box, in the outfield with Aaron Judge, in their rotation. They have really good players still, but like they seem like a team that is able to hit these strides where they just play not great baseball, and whether that comes from the front office, the fan base at times seems to be pretty unruly with them over the past handful of years. Like, some of the signings and whatnot that they've made, like Garrett Cole, for instance, originally the big story with him, not was his amazing pitching, but was like the spider tack stuff. Giancarlo Stanton, you know, you have the Stantonian blast that ends up being a long fly single. They just don't seem like the Yankees. I feel like that attitude is now shifted to like the LA Dodgers because of some of their recent, you know, just they every series for them, as I think Mookie Betts said, that's like a World Series for a lot of teams. If you can beat the Dodgers, I don't feel that way about the Yankees anymore. So, but to your point, scaling back to the game here at night, tough matchup. Chris Paddack kind of gets in a rough spot. He gets a bad hand drawn for him. He has to go up against a very solid lefty, a guy that the Twins should be relatively familiar with, Carlos Rodon, who was in the south side of Chicago for however many years. And Paddack, I mean, this was, if you go back about a month, his worst outing. He hasn't given up more than 4 earned runs since he gave up, I want to say it was 9 against the Orioles about a month ago on the 14th, maybe the 16th. I can't remember what day exactly, but I would say, Dex, if you're going to tell me that once a month for these Twins, you're going to get a bad Chris Paddack outing, I can live with that. And maybe that's just me being on the optimistic side of things, but he's been relatively decent every other time out. And some would say a borderline, like, solid guy. Like, he hasn't been just palatable. He's been somewhat impressive over the past month. If you tell me he's going to have a blemish here and there, why not? And especially it's against the Yankees, who I just was talking down about for, you know, the past couple minutes, but it's the Yankees. So I'll let that one slide, and Chris Paddack just rebound next time, get back to what we saw this past month. And, you know, we can sweep this one under the rug.
Yeah, I really thought, you know, for Paddack, who's honestly, he's solid in his role, to your point. I think he's mostly a mid-rotation type of guy. He doesn't have frontline stuff like the Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryans, and now Bailey Ober has demonstrated. And he got roughed up a bit. Look, you're you're facing the new murderer's row to a degree, and Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, who was an early MVP candidate, and just in general, I thought Chris Paddack probably didn't have his sharpest stuff. He talked about that in the post game as well. In fact, there's a huge garbage just truck basically roaming through me right now in the driving club. So if you hear a bunch of background noise, that's exactly what that is as I try to make this point. But Chris Paddack has definitely had better outings. He had to wear this one to a degree. And he fouls off, people can foul off a lot of pitchers. There was some talk if he was tipping pitches tonight, and he didn't really sense that was the case. Now, and I kind of tend to agree, like if Aaron Judge is going to hit the ball 115 miles an hour, which by the way wasn't out today, I don't really understand how that's possible.
Yeah.
And Juan Soto's on, and the rest of this Yankee lineup is really good. Verdugo's still pretty solid. Like you're going to run into some buzzsaws there, but yeah, I mean, Chris Paddack kind of puts this one away, forgets about it, tries to rebound in the next start. Not his cleanest outing, but again, good Yankees team, and the Twins offense obviously had some chances here in the seventh. They unloaded the bench, and it kind of looked like maybe they were going to be able to do something. Unfortunately, they go down swinging after that. But in general, if they were going to lose a game today, I thought it was going to be this one.
Yeah, with that, I would say the big thing is not how they lost the game tonight, but maybe how they will respond tomorrow. It's one to you get an early lead, a Jeffers bottom of the first home run, and credit to him, he's been hitting the ball pretty well here. But 5 unanswered, Yankees take the first game of the series. Tomorrow, how do you bounce back? And maybe this is where I'll turn to you. I haven't looked ahead as much as maybe you may have for what the pitching matchup is going to be. Do you have that offhand, Dex?
For the Twins tomorrow or the rest of the series? Yeah, so they have Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan tomorrow, which is obviously great. I forget who the Yankees are shoving for tomorrow, but I mean, you're going to have your 2 aces on the mound to get this series win, which is huge. So that's where I thought just in general, like they weren't going to have it the best. But yeah, I mean, you're going to get Pablo tomorrow. You're going to get Joe Ryan on Thursday to try to close out the series before they head to Cleveland for a big weekend series too. So I thought, put this one away and hopefully you can move on.
And really quick, it's going to be Marcus Stroman on the bump tomorrow, 2-2 on the year with a 3.8 ERA, a guy that, as you mentioned, Top, being a pretty big Cubs guy myself, I'm pretty familiar with. He's a guy where if you get on him early, he gets rattled. Like pitching is like the loneliest. You talk about like boxing or maybe like singles and tennis. It's super lonely out there in your corner or whatever. Same thing for the mound, especially, if you want to say target field. It could get lonely out there. And a guy like Marcus Stroman, if you get in his head early, you get a couple nice rips off him right off the get-go. That's a guy who's going to have an uphill battle. He likes to be in control, and when you take that power away from him, boy, does he find some struggle.
Yeah, and I believe Marcus Stroman, the all-time leader in strikeouts for someone that is 5'7" or smaller. I believe he just passed some, or like he is near. I saw some stat. For pitchers 5'7" or under, I think he is the all-time leader in strikeouts and or very up to it.
Well, hey,
so,
respect.
Little
we
man.
Love a short king. We love a short king.
The outfield defense today, Age, pretty dang rough. Look, they've been without Byron Buxton for a week. He's going to begin a rehab assignment on Wednesday to make sure he's all good. But Willie Castro lost a ball in the sun in the bottom of the first. There was a couple other 50-50 balls that Buxton easily catches. Austin Martin had a little bit of a journey again in left field. Castro threw to the wrong base. Very uncharacteristic game. Rocco kind of even called it, a one-off more than it is going to be a problem. Now, if it continues, and you're going to still have to play some Willie Castro here and there in center field and have to rely on Austin Martin to a degree in left, yeah, that will be a problem long-term. I just thought today, outfield defense, they didn't give them a chance either, and we always kind of forget about defense in baseball. Stick whoever is there. Man, you saw a perfect example today of why if you can just put some slappy or some replacement level player can cost you a game. Another big reason, I guess, in the pie chart of blame for the loss tonight.
Classic Judd moment there. Classic Judd moment. I think it's so, to your point, it's so easy at times to forget about defense in baseball because everybody loves the long ball or the guy that can hit, 350 at a time for a month or the flame throwing pitcher and whatnot. Gone are maybe the days of like, the guy that's a perennial gold glover or anything like that. You kind of forget about how important those guys are in a lineup is maybe the better way I can phrase that. And that's like Kevin Kiermaier he's kind of made his career on being a very solid defensive guy. And then he might have stints at the plate where it's like, okay, but when it's not great, you're like, okay, we know why he's out there. He's in the field. Kirk Cousins is cousin. They look so similar, but I made that point for years. I don't know if you've ever made that connection.
I've never noticed that. No.
Oh my God. Every time he's up to bat, I'm like Kirk Cousins. There he is. But yeah, it's when you don't have a guy like Byron Buxton in the outfield, it's so noticeable because he's just so far and away a higher tier, and not just maybe one step, but he's like up an entire flight compared to some of these other guys. Austin Martin, I would like to think, could hold down that spot better than a Willie Castro. But like you said, everybody does make mistakes. Everybody has those days, to quote Hannah Montana. So it's tomorrow, you're going to have to shore things up. You're going to have to be a little bit better out there. But it's all about your pros and cons of, can you make the plays that you're supposed to, and I think that's what I think a lot of Twins fans and probably this Twins club is going to say. If we make the plays that we're supposed to, and we, the ball to the gap that we can't make a diving grab on, that maybe Byron Buxton would have a better chance at it, we'll let that one go. But you're going to then have to pick up your slack at the plate. You're going to have to not get one solo bomb in the first inning. And, hey, that's it. That's it. The Yankees, we can win on one run. No, you're going to have to do a little bit everything. Defense can't win you games, but it sure can put you in a good spot to win games. So, it's we got to clean things up in the outfield, especially, but all around the diamond too, because I know they've been getting healthier here and there. It's been nice to have those reinforcements come back, but boy, like you said, it's a big gap in center field without a Byron Buxton.
Offensively, Ryan Jeffers continues his MVP disrespect. Entered today plus 6,000 to win American League MVP. Pimps another home run for his 10th blast of the year. I'll check those odds again tomorrow because they kind of refresh. And dude, some of those odds are ridiculous. Gunnar Henderson is still plus 350 and has the third best odds to win AL MVP. He hasn't played in the big leagues for 2 weeks now and got off to obviously an atrocious start. So the disrespect for Ryan Jeffers continues, but the dude just continues to absolutely rake at the plate. He DH'd today and led off. He'll probably be catching tomorrow. They're kind of very strategic on how they go about that. But Ryan Jeffers remains red hot at the plate. He'll probably be in the middle of the order catching tomorrow. But at the same time, another home run, his 10th blast of the year, just continues to punish baseballs. I mean, I know Adley Rutschman might be probably the favorite to start an All-Star game, but there's a legit campaign that should be starting for Ryan Jeffers. Not obviously, I know I'm being cheeky with the AL MVP stuff, but to probably be your AL starting all-star catcher. Like, the dude is absolutely destroying baseballs at the plate. He's having a career year. Saw another home run, the only real offensive highlight for the Twins today, and it was another big blast.
Yeah, it's to your point. Yeah, it's Adley Rutschman, I feel like, has that kind of narrative. He's got that youngness. He's a switch hitter. He's been it seemed like for a long time. It felt like a decade where he was the number one prospect in baseball and finally made the jump up to the big leagues. And he's been great for the Orioles. But when you look at some of the other names for the AL, like potential starting catcher in the All-Star game, it's like Ryan Jeffers is making a heck of a case right now. The hitting is there. I think the thing is going to be who can be more consistent over the stretch where they actually get into like that voting period for All-Star games. But if he can continue like it is, I mean, God, this guy has been a beacon of light in this batting order for, I want to say, if you look at everybody in the order tonight, other than Max Kepler, who is batting a impressive 321, everybody else is sub 300, but he is the closest guy to that 300 mark at 290 after tonight's game. So he's kind of doing everything. He's got the power, like you said, 10th homer of the night, or not of the night, but 10th homer tonight, but on the year. Do you think, in your opinion, the leadoff spot is the right move for him there tonight, where he's been so consistent? Maybe put him 3, maybe put him 4, so that if you can get a leadoff guy on, a second in the order guy on, then you have that reliable bat to knock somebody around. Or in his case tonight, that solo shot instead is now it's a 2-run shot. It's a 3-run shot. And now the Twins are in a better position with how they want to maybe structure pitching later on in the game.
So I like him actually in the leadoff spot against lefties just because this lineup is really just lefty heavy. So when they have to face a lefty, you just got to put your top dogs at the top of the order as quickly as possible and try to get as many plate appearances as you can. So having Jeffers, Correa, who have historically just absolutely destroyed lefties, I don't really hate it because at the same time, if someone else can demonstrate, like Kyle Farmer last year was very effective against left-handed pitching, that really hasn't been the case this year. If there was a better normal prototypical leadoff hitter, then I would probably politic for Jeffers to probably hit a little bit deeper in that order to drive in some runs when someone's on the pond. But when you have a lineup that is so lefty heavy, you need to score as many runs as possible. Like at the end of the day, they get a leadoff home run from the guy. And then, the defense collapses. Paddack doesn't have his sharpest outings, but like you're going to most likely, especially with the Twins case, you're probably going to honestly lose more of the games against left-handed starters than you are against right-handed starters just because of how heavy the lefty hitters are. So I'm not saying the Twins punt when they have to face a lefty starter. We've seen them beat up on lefty starters this year, but it makes things very difficult. And I think even a lot of managers and a lot of people in baseball would honestly agree with that sentiment that when you face a left-handed pitcher, odds are like you're going to be in some serious trouble. So the odds are stacked against you there unless you have just a ridiculous run of righties. So no, I don't hate it. If someone else could step up, like if they had Royce Lewis in the lineup and who can hit both, then it becomes a lot easier to kind of jumble that. Royce probably goes closer to a leadoff spot, and then you have Correa, Jeff, or some type of combination of a 1-2-3. So I don't hate it, but you'll probably see him batting third or fourth, most likely tomorrow when they do get a righty on the mound. But yeah, I mean, he continues to put up an incredible year, plus 6,000. I'm not a betting man. We can't bet on sports here in Minnesota yet. Knock on wood. Hopefully that comes soon. But I would lock that in now. Plus 6,000. That's a hell of a payday right there.
Absolutely. You mentioned kind of this team having, the odds stacked against them, and to relate that into maybe the injury bug that this team has had. For maybe myself or other Twins faithful out there who have missed some of the updates and stuff. Do you have any injury updates on some of the guys who've been sidelined here?
Yeah, Buxton will have a rehab assignment on Wednesday in St. Paul. He'll play Wednesday, Thursday to just make sure, he can kind of honestly stand out there. That's honestly the biggest thing.
Okay.
I didn't think he was going to need one, but it actually does make sense if his leg bugs him and he has chronic leg problems. If he can't stand and play in center field, the guy can't be a full-time DH. He just can't. We saw that on display today. When his glove's in the lineup, it's an added value. So they need to make sure he can play defense. I'm sure it might be a split where it's one game at center field, maybe the second game's DH to keep not on his feet the entire time. But you need the guy in the lineup and also playing center. And then Justin Topa, sounds like his patellar tendon, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Maybe I'm butchering it. Has a partial tear in it. He went for the PRP. He elected no surgery. He is hoping that because he did the PRP, that he'll hopefully still be able to pitch this season. But 6 weeks, I think, of no throwing. So you can do the math there. That takes us to basically July before you start throwing again. Maybe August 1st if everything goes swimmingly and this dude just has a chronic knee issue. So I wouldn't count on it. It was obviously a big part of the Jorge Polanco trade. But yeah, Topa, you will not be seeing him make his Twins debut. That still has yet to happen since being acquired from the Mariners. So yeah, some quick little injury updates before we wrap up here on SKOR North Extra Innings.
Two quick questions to kind of go back at what you just said. One on Topa, the most recent one you just mentioned. They traded for him. Was that anything that they have hinted or relayed that it was an inherited injury from the trade, or was it new, fresh on Minnesota turf, or is that kind of maybe something they haven't touched on yet? So
Topa admitted that he dealt with it towards the end of his tenure in Seattle, that now it wasn't as big of a problem, he said, but he did deal with it.
Okay.
We haven't had a sit down with Derek Falvey, or I saw Thad Levine in the locker room, but it's something I would like to get some clarification on. I mean, I'm going to guess they probably did know of it to a degree. I do side with Topa that, hey, if it wasn't as big of a problem, and they also looked at it and said, no, it's probably fine. Okay. But clearly it's an issue for him. And I think that's the PTSD that kicks in with Twins fans of trading and acquiring and signing damaged goods players. And you'd like to think that, yes, it sucks, injuries are going to happen to a degree, but when a guy has a history of the same issue that then lingers into the other season, then also because he was acquired late too. I mean, I don't think that Polanco trade came down to about mid-January. I mean, was Topa taking care of it appropriately? Were the Mariners not taking care of it appropriately? I wouldn't say it's solely that the Twins and Falvey are to blame for that, but it's certainly frustrating. I won't I won't also put a complete shield up to defend the Twins on that one because of their history. But yeah, you won't be seeing Justin Topa anytime soon. Hopefully Buxton in Cleveland at some point. We'll wait and see when that activation happens. But yeah, a couple other injury notes there.
And for the Buxton thing, and this is the last question I got for you. This is more just curiosity for me. With you mentioned the PTSD, and I know Twins fans that I might trigger with kind of just this question to begin with, based on last season. But we saw how much you kind of had to be cautious and bubble wrap of Byron Buxton. Like, can he go play out on the field, or do you have to just rely on him to try to be a DH type of guy? Right now, do you think we're on trajectory to where he gets back primarily to being a center fielder, or do you think this is going to be you kind of have to wait and see if it gets any worse, he gets shifted more in the direction of DH, or potentially something starts just like projecting positively and he's out in center field on a day-to-day basis more often than not?
So he played in like almost every single game through April. Like he was playing and playing center field. I think there was maybe one or two and just an occasional start at DH for him. He played almost damn near every single game in center. Because this has popped up, I wonder if that strategy probably does change. Maybe that's more DHing. Maybe that's just straight up off days for him, which also would make a lot of sense just to keep him off his feet. But at the same time, should you just continue to milk the cow, for the lack of a better word, as much as you can and try to get as much innings as you possibly? I mean, you saw it on display today. Like, you're going to want that dude in October, so you probably shouldn't be burning him and running him out against every single series, but it puts you in a tough spot because you don't really have a viable backup defensive center fielder. So I wonder if that strategy change is probably something for me to put a little pin in and dig a little bit more on AJ. I appreciate it. But yeah, I would think you probably change up the strategy, and you can't just have to run him out there. I mean, this is who Byron Buxton is. He's going to have some leg issues. He's going to have some knee issues, I should say. But yeah, that strategy will probably change, I would think, going forward now that it has flared up again.
All right.
SKOR North Extra Innings. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I know a lot of people are watching the Twins game right now live, so go Wolves. We'll see if they were able to force or at least come back to Target Center with a lead. And then if you're listening to this Monday or Wednesday morning, I should say, a little post-game recap. You can expect an Extra Innings episode also tomorrow, most likely pregame before the game 2 between the Yankees and Twins. So appreciate you guys for watching this. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, and the SKOR North YouTube channel. This is SKOR North Extra Innings.